Hello, welcome. I haven't made a video in a very long time and just been feeling inspired to do so. Just taking a moment to arrive. Just following your breath, the ins and outs of the breath. Whatever sensation you notice, not trying to make anything happen, but just noticing it as it is. Noticing the effortless quality. Right, you don't need to know how to breathe. You don't need to try to make it happen. And it comes and goes on its own accord. Not needing to be worthy of the breath, to prove anything, to figure anything out. How without all of that, life still comes, breath still comes. And just noticing where you are mentally. If you've drifted off, if you're analyzing, interpreting in the future, in the past. And just bring yourself back, following the sensations of the breath. And just noticing if there's anywhere in your body that you're holding on or tensing. And just noticing that and seeing if you can soften. Not trying to soften, but rather allowing through the noticing, the contraction, simply holding an open space of allowance for it to soften. for it to let go. Without any expectation that anything needs to happen, just noticing. Sometimes we might offer the space and still remain in the contraction. Sometimes the contraction might soften a little or a lot. As much as we'd like to get rid of or overcome or escape from those contracted sensations, the invitation is to notice those contractions and to notice how we relate to them. To notice if in any way we're pushing against those parts. Have some idea or expectation that they shouldn't be there, aren't welcome. And to just check for yourself what your relationship is to those parts. And simply to keep breathing. Again, checking in, see if you've drifted off. If you're stuck in analyzing or judging your experience, trying subtly to make something happen. Or if you've drifted off into some thought world, past or future. And if so, forgiving yourself and coming back. Relating to yourself with as much kindness as possible. Knowing that these patterns of the mind will play out, take us where they want to. Those old habitual patterns. And for the purpose of this exercise is just to notice that and to do our best to come back. Open to them, allow them, and to come back into the spaciousness that can allow them from a place of presence, openness, availability. And again, just noticing, riding that wave of the breath in and out. Noticing any contractions, noticing how you're relating to them, and inviting them to soften without without expectation. Maybe even imagining becoming heavier on the exhale as this invitation to rest more deeply here. And again, using this invitation as just that, an invitation rather than forcing or trying to make your experience present itself in a certain way. Meeting yourself as you are in this moment. Inviting in and welcoming all parts. Parts of the mind that may be in other places. Any parts that might be fighting or trying to make something happen. Allowing them to be. Noticing within ourselves and our own experience in the present moment how we resist parts of ourselves, how we fight against ourselves, and what that does within us. To notice how we create our own suffering in this regard. It's welcoming in the sacredness of the breath. And even just noticing how the word of viewing it as this sacred component of life or the sacredness of the breath, how that itself, that invitation, might shift your relationship to the breath. So this is it. It's just exploring the invitation within our own lived experience and allowing our experience to provide us with the answer. To view the breath as sacred. How does that shift the experience of this moment of myself? just a few more breaths, just again, resting in this open invitation, noticing the parts that are contracted, noticing if any more restedness in the body. Noticing the quality of sacredness, how that might translate into your own experience. And allowing yourself to not just take it in mentally, but to feel that felt sense of what those invitations created within you, in the body. Almost in a way is to map this experience, to create a reference point to come back to. Not so much to recreate it, but to really notice that felt sense of what it is to be open, available, relaxed, present to your experience. You can open your eyes. And even as we open our eyes, notice if we can still maintain that awareness of the body, of the breath. We're not then losing ourselves in the experience, but we're there present, available, grounded in our own being, even as all of the sensory experience opens up to us with our eyes open. And this way, there's no period at the end of the meditation. The meditation continues actively throughout every moment. Some moments we might lean more into the sensory experience of all the distractions or seeming distractions that the world can present. Sometimes we might lean further back from it, almost as a way of avoiding or escaping or trying to leave our experience. So it's finding that balance point so we're not super invested in what's happening around us, so much so that we lose connectedness to what's happening within us, and not in such a way where we're leaning back from our experience, where we're almost kind of indifferent to what's happening around us, and also not very connected to what's happening within us. Where we're here, present. We're still open to the world around us, allowing sensory input to come in, engaging with life, feeling the sensations of the body, connecting to what we need, the emotions that come up in the moment, allowing them to express. This awakened consciousness where we're present and available to meet experience as it is. And even within this groundedness presence, we might still notice, we're available to notice parts of ourselves that we might be rejecting or not wanting to include in our experience. I know for myself, so often I can be here, I can be connected to my own experience, noticing these parts. And depending on what the part is, I can still lose myself in the contraction, that resistance of needing it, believing that somehow investing in a story around it, that means that something's wrong. Because that's appearing, something is wrong. Something is wrong with me. Something is wrong with life. Something needs to change. I need to do something more to fix this, make this different. And so often that I notice myself in this frantic kind of scurrying like a squirrel digging for nuts or hiding their nuts, believing that I'm available, I'm feeling the sensation, then something is wrong. Wanting to pull back from it, not stay present and available to it. So either I can lean in too much and then I'm not connected to what's happening here, not connected to my feelings or what's going on within me, the sensations of my body. And then I could become present, notice something that's uncomfortable, and then want to lean back. I don't want to feel that. And noticing that oscillation, trying to avoid it in somehow. And it can seem subtle, and sometimes there is a time and a place where we do need to address it and look at it and so-called fix it. There's nothing wrong with that. But that can also be a very subtle way that we then disconnect from that emotion or reject that part of ourself that continues to present itself, whether it be that emotion, that sensation, that belief, that behavior. I want me, I like me, but I don't like this part of me. This part of me is keeping me from liking the rest of me, whatever we might say about it. And then the tendency to pull back. I'm noticing for myself, and sometimes it takes a while. I'll either lean too much, I'll lean back, I don't want to feel this, and then I can lean forward too much into it, where I'm either then drowning and wallowing in the story, or I'm frightened by it, and then I'm looking for something outside of myself to try to fix it or make it go away. No different, really, than any other addiction. This tendency to grab on to what we like, push away what we don't like, and look for some sort of resolution outside of ourselves, of all those parts. Either to amplify what we do like through getting what we want out of life, or pushing away parts of ourselves by fixing them or overcoming them. So how then do we have a whole human being? What is really being asked? So from what I've noticed is that from this place of aware presence, sometimes I might say, yes, there is something that this part of me is needing. It's needing some help in some way, and it would be beneficial to reach out or to look for something outside of myself to help that part relax or find solace, or to not have present itself in such a way that there's a lot of dysfunction and chaos in my life. But oftentimes what I do notice is that if I go there before I've really sat in the uncomfortableness and noticing the resistance that I create within myself of that first, it's a reactive movement. I don't want to feel this, so then I'm immediately out there looking for something to resolve it for me. Whereas when I'm willing to sit in that emotion, to meet it, be honest that it's there, noticing what I might be doing, how I'm relating to it, if I'm pushing it away, if I don't want it to be there. Then it's like there's this clarity of allowing. Whatever is called for can present itself through this deeper wisdom that I just don't really know, this intuitive wisdom, where it's not really about figuring it out what it needs, but rather allowing that emotion to reveal what would be most helpful. And this is a practice. And for me, it's taken a long time noticing all these tendencies of moving in and away and backing, staying present, but then still somehow like ignoring parts that are in the background that are running, that are dysfunctional, bypassing them. And if I'm here, present, available, that these parts, even though they're dysfunctional, don't need to be worked on or shouldn't be considered or aren't important to look at. Through my own lived experience, that has been avoiding those parts. Another strategy of avoiding them. But as this journey continues, noticing that that's not really the freedom, because they still play out in dysfunctional ways, creating a sense of dissatisfaction in life. And allowing them, engaging with them, allowing them to come to the surface, to notice how they show up, how they present themselves, how they, their dysfunctional aspects. Then there's room for something to emerge in that by acknowledging that they're there, without this place of judging them or condemning or leading to this story of shame that there's something inherently wrong with me or this shouldn't be happening, which can still arise within me. But finding that still place where what's being asked for can present itself without the struggle to try to figure it out or make something happen. And I can still notice within me that impatience sometimes, wanting to be somewhere else other than where I am, or wanting to know the answer faster than it's being revealed and trying to make something happen from that. And it's been this really delicate dance of noticing when I'm too far invested in one way or too avoidant another way, to coming back to this place where it's still engaged with life, allowing the sensory to come, allowing the wants, the needs, all of that, the emotions to be there without pushing away or overly grasping onto them or creating an identity or story around them. That it's me and something wrong with me because this is still here, still presenting itself. And how quick the mind can do that. Telling a story, have you really done any work on this? This is still here, there's something wrong, this is bad, where's this taking you? And sometimes for me, it's about noticing. Sometimes I don't catch it right away. I might notice myself being kind of restless, not wanting to sit still very long, or going to the fridge and grabbing an extra snack when I'm not even hungry, or craving certain foods, or all kinds of subtle ways. Giving myself too much to do, keeping too busy. and noticing that subtle resistance to wanting to slow down, to feel that, the discomfort of that momentum, that urge that wants to get away somehow, to escape. And sometimes it's the very presence of those things that I notice that can reveal that there's this part of myself that's wanting to escape, or wanting something that I'm not aware of. So for me now, it's still a work in progress, but still noticing that when those things present themselves, they're not necessarily bad. Noticing myself keeping really busy, noticing myself going to the fridge, grabbing a snack when I'm not hungry. When those things present themselves, it can be a wake-up call that there's something here in my experience that wants to be seen, to want to be met from this place of open, available presence. Not resisting it by leaning back or being indifferent to it, not leaning in too hard to it, trying to figure it out, understand it, grasp it, or I guess pushing away from it, like noticing those habits and following those habits of escape, of indulgence, of following that to-do list, eating those snacks. And giving myself permission, which is the hardest part, to be in the midst of that dance. To be in the midst of that dance and allow itself to work itself out on its own. Without me leaning into it too hard to try to figure it out, fix it, or pushing it away through distracting myself with the doing, the busyness, the snacking, whatever else it might be, whatever other tendency might present itself for you. And the beauty of having compassion for that part. Compassion for ourselves on this journey as we do this dance in and out, in and out. Allowing these parts to be there in a way to evolve us to something deeper within ourselves. And I've been noticing that within myself, this dance of wanting, not wanting, wanting, not wanting. Thinking that what I want, if I just do a little more to try to get what I want, that somehow that's going to make me happy, or make that if I chase that want, it's this carrot that's continually offered, that belief that chasing that want will bring that sense of relief and happiness. Still sometimes getting lost in that, chasing that want. It seems so real and so enticing when these wants present themselves, to be able to follow it. And it's not about not wanting, is what I'm coming to see. And this is still evolving itself within me. It's not about not wanting, but allowing the want to be there from, again, this solid place within oneself, present, open, available, without leaning into the want. I have this want, so then I need to do all these things to try to make it happen. Or I'm attached to the outcome, so I need to try harder. Because if I don't get what I want, then what will happen? And really noticing, taking in the angst that creates within myself. I mean, I truly believe that I had this I had this understanding within me, but noticing it deepen, a deepening of the understanding of what that is. the suffering that's created in chasing that want. And also noticing within myself how resisting those parts of myself seems okay. It seems like this is just me. I can justify it to myself over and over again in so many different ways. This is just me being me. This is just how I am. But noticing how that too creates a sense of suffering, because oftentimes we're pretending that I don't want something that I want. Pretending I'm satisfied when I'm not. That it's neither of those things. It's not pretending that I'm not a human being with wants and needs, and it's not chasing after to try to get those wants and needs met. But rather finding this, again, this still solid place within myself where I'm clear about what I want and need, giving myself the permission to do this psychological work to really understand what it is that I want and need. For so long, I didn't even know that I had wants and needs. But to really give myself permission to explore what those wants and needs are, but to not engage with them in a way where I'm too attached to them being met, or met a certain way, or met on my time frame. Or I'm not pushing them away, pretending that because I'm spiritual or something, or that they're not really that important. And all the ways we can do this, I see this in people all the time, myself included, not wanting to be hurt, terrified of being hurt. So I'm just going to be me and me alone. And I'm comfortable in my aloneness. And I'm just going to continue to have this wall up that prevents me from connecting with people. Or I'm going to lean in too much. And I'm terrified of being alone. So I'm just going to attach to anything that presents itself. And sometimes even within oneself, doing the dance between the two. I think we all have a tendency towards one or the other. But sometimes when we're pushing so far back from that desire to, whatever it be, have love or appreciation or feel connected in some way, that even that can be exhausting and there might be moments where we lean in. That it's the chasing of experience. The way we can judge or devalue parts of ourselves because they're still appearing. To exclude them, to reject them, to lean in too much or too far. I'm just going to lean back and put this part of myself over here so I don't have to deal with it or don't have to experience it. Or if I just ignore it, it'll go away. But all of these parts of ourselves are really like small children, and they'll come back. They'll come back for our attention, wanting to be seen and met. Every emotion, too, that we push away or try to pretend's not there comes back. And often unexpected ways. So as we started in the beginning meditation, to notice where we're at. Notice if we're leaning in, noticing if we're pushing away from parts of ourselves. Noticing if we're creating a story around emotional experiences or sensations or thought patterns. that we believe shouldn't be there, or we're grasping hold of them. A thought comes and then we grasp hold of it, trying to make it happen, make it into something. For myself, I can notice myself still sometimes just staying back, notice, thinking that I'm observing the emotion or letting it be, but in reality, sort of still resisting it in some way, trying to convince myself that I'm okay with it. When really, if I slow it down and I'm honest, there's an agenda to try to fix or get rid of that emotion. And this is where that honesty becomes so crucial. Otherwise, we might bypass parts of ourselves that need healing, pretending that they don't need healing or assuming that they're done and over with. Or we might be running our whole life to our grave looking for something final outcome to finally give us solace where we can rest and be at peace and happy. So the invitation that I've been playing with lately is, how do I allow this want to be here without chasing it? First of all, what do I want? And how can I allow this want to be here without chasing it? And when I notice I'm chasing it, how do I meet that? Or if I notice myself avoiding something, how do I meet that? Do I continue on the path of avoidance, or do I lean in? How to want without chasing. How to need without becoming needy. How to live and create and be open and available to life in a way that's not constrained by my ideas of how it should be presenting itself. To notice where our ideas of how something should be get in the way of allowing things to be as they are. Where do my ideas of how things should be get in the way of allowing things to be as they are? And noticing all the ways that that appears in life. And this is where we come to meet that the first place I feel that we create this sense of separation is within ourselves. Separating out parts of ourselves and then trying hard to overcome them, compensate, or escape them. How do we meet those parts without trying to fix them, escape them, or compensate for them, or act out on them in dysfunctional ways? And these are questions not so much to have quick answers to, but to sit with. sit with deep within ourselves. Allow the question, the answer to come by sitting in the question. Not so much of a top down trying to figure it out mentally, but being even in the discomfort of holding the question without an answer. Because to take any of this and to create a truth from it, I know this is how it is, doesn't allow room for something to evolve or something to be shown or known. And I see this all the time, clients grabbing hold of something, I know the answer, or this is how it is. We're quickly answering the question and not allowing space for that deeper wisdom to come on its own. It's almost as if these questions are experiments that we can live out in our daily life. This is how I've approached them most of my spiritual journey. And how do I do? How do I be spacious in circumstances where it feels like I'm busy all of the time? And instead of trying to figure out how I can create that space using the situation as it is, and again, this is where we need to be aware of what's being asked of us by practicing sitting still, because for some of us, maybe the answer is to leave or move on or change a circumstance. It's not about becoming complacent to life and just going, not having any, taking any action or sometimes saying no or setting boundaries or staying in bad relationships. It's sometimes, of course, there's that too. But at other times, we might be presented with a situation where maybe it's uncomfortable, but we're being asked to stay, or we're forced to be in a situation to stay. And so, how can we use life as it presents itself to reveal a deeper truth? To stay in this place of grounded centeredness without continually either leaning too far in or avoiding too far out. We're doing this kind of rocking motion where we're going back and forth between the two the whole time. And it's not so much that any of this is bad or needs to be overcome or gotten rid of, but of course we want, if there's an opportunity to heal these parts of ourselves that are doing continually oscillating in and out, we can use these experiences to take us to a deeper truth, to heal these parts that are continually wavering all over the place, and to come back home. So in one sense, there's nothing wrong with any of these actions that are happening within us, the leaning in or the pushing away or the dance oscillating or dance between the two. But in another sense, they can lead to a lot of dysfunction in our lives if we continue to either stay too far forward or too far back in our lives. That we can miss things that might be open and wanting to take us deeper within ourselves, to evolve us in a certain way. So we notice the resistance, notice where we might be pushing things away, or we might be too far leaning in, trying to get what we want or make things happen. And feeling the energy of that, the energy of trying to avoid or push things away, or the energy of trying to grasp hold of something, feeling that, the suffering in that. And as we feel the suffering in that, the more we become aware of what that action is doing, and the more we can rest in the centeredness of that open awareness of that very dynamic, there can be a spaciousness for something to emerge. Whether it's an insight, whether it's an action to be taken, or whether it's being open and available to the experience just as it presents itself. And in my experience, it's often a combination of the two. I have to sit in the discomfort of noticing where I'm at, if I'm leaning too far in or if I'm pushing things away, to sit in the discomfort of that separation from self, separation from that grounded, rooted self. And then sometimes even asking in that space, sometimes it's just holding that space and allowing the energy of the emotion or whatever to move through. And sometimes it's asking, what does this part of me need? What is asking to be seen here? As I'm resting in that space, holding the discomfort of whatever action it is, the grasping, the chasing, the striving, or the pushing away, the escaping, avoiding, distracting. What is asked to be seen? And again, relating to the question, not in a way of trying to quickly grab hold of the answer to answer it in your head, but to almost ask into the sensation itself. What is asking to be seen? What wants to be known here? What do you need? And again, holding that space for the answer to reveal itself. The answer is not something that you need to do or find. Rather, the answer comes from the space itself. Holding that space, resting in that space, allows what's needed to appear. And just resting in that, noticing where even those words sit within you. And noticing whatever dynamic might be playing out without judgment, as best you can. Noticing the dance without reacting to it, shaming yourself for it. Seeing this, hopefully, shifting the perspective from something is wrong with me because this is here, to something is being shown to me because this is here. Something is wanting to be met, felt, seen, experienced. And how do I make myself available to that? Okay. Thank you for joining me. Any comments, please leave below. I would love to hear from you, how this sits with you. Okay. Take good, loving care.